Hello, my friends. I'm so glad you stopped by today. Hey, I've been getting some questions on how I record vocals in my home studio here for my demos. Thought I'd go over that today, how I'm tracking them, and then some plugins that I'm using once it's time to mix. So we're going to do that today. If you're new to my channel, my name's Arlo. I'm doing demos here in my home studio. I'm getting ready to go into a real studio in August, going to Sunset Sound out in Los Angeles and record some of my songs and do video in the studio. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you go to my Reward Music website, it's just arlotarr.rewardmusic.com. You can read a little bit about the show that I'm going to be doing out there, and it'll tell you a little bit more about some of the music when I used to play live and music I used to do. You can click on my music section. There's songs in there you can download. I just uploaded my newest song, Loaded Gun, which I think I'm going to be using that one at the studio out at LA. And then you can also go to my subscription page. If you do subscribe, it's $30 and you'll get to be able to see the video once it's done. You'll get a t-shirt, and then there's going to be some behind the scenes videos I'm going to be putting up in here as we go along. So recently I had one guy in particular was like, hey, how are you doing your vocals? Like, they sound good. And I'm like, oh, thanks. You know, I do my best with them. I enjoy playing guitar. I feel a little more comfortable with that. The singing part, I do all right with. But so I think how we want to start this is just by saying the main thing when you start is you got to be practicing singing a lot. You know, I hear a lot of people say, I can't sing, I have a bad voice. You got to practice. You know, sing in the shower, sing while you're driving back and forth to work or whatever it is, and just try to develop and find out what your voice is. You know, when Hendrix started playing, he was great guitar, and he didn't think he could sing. He thought he had a bad voice. And then he started listening to Bob Dylan and was like, oh, if he can sing, then I can, you know. So I think it's kind of, you got to find what works for you, and then just keep practicing. So good voice, you got to start with that. Next up, you got to have a good microphone. I'm using the Beta 58. I used to use these when I was touring. Playing gigs and stuff. It's good for that. It has kind of a boost up in the highs and lows. It's a little hotter than the regular 58. There's also some noise cancellation on the sides because it's a super cardioid mic versus a cardioid mic. So on stage it's good because we'd have two monitors set up and it wouldn't pick up some of that. It'd only pick up here in the front. But it works good for my studio. I'll probably go into a condenser mic at some point, upgrading to that once I get past this recording session I got coming up. So got to have a good microphone. From there it goes into my audio interface and it goes into my DAW. So check out in the DAW here. So I have my vocal channel set up, and then I've got 3 effects in the vocal channel. I use this Shep's Omni channel. This is what I track with. I can put this on and it does some add some saturation. I got an EQ set up. Just makes my voice sound better while I'm singing it. So it kind of encourages me to sing. So it sounds better than not using anything in there. So I can run that. It doesn't slow my CPU down. I got an i7 9700 chip in there with 32 gigs of RAM. The Shep's Omni channel. I have no problem with that running, and it works out really good. I'm using a preset in that one because it works good for me just to drop this one preset in here. It sounds good with my voice. So it's just adding some saturation. It's cutting off some of the low end around 167, so it's dropping some of that off. And then there's like a little thump boost in another low end range where it boosts a little bit. And then EQ wise, it's boosting at 4K, it's boosting at 2K. Nothing there, and then it's cutting off at 217, so it's cutting off some of the mud down in that 200 range there. There's DS or negate on it, so this is what I track with. Sometimes I have on, and I have it sent to this effect, which is the Sunset Sound Studio Reverb. So this is where I'm going to be recording at. I'm actually going to be in this here. I'm going to be in Studio 1. That's what I have reserved right now. That's where Eddie Van Halen, they did like a couple albums in there, and that's where he did Eruption, their first album. There's pictures of him like set up in here, so it's pretty cool. But I was using Studio 3 on this. So I just have this set up on another channel, and I just come out of the vocal channel here is where the sends are. So I'm just sending it here over to the Sunset Sound channel here. And sometimes I have that on at tracking. Sometimes I have it, it's clean, and I'm not doing that. But I love that plugin from IK Multimedia. Check it out. It's fantastic reverb, just fantastic. There's a lot of producers that have worked in there, and they listen to that plugin, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like Studio One, or that sounds like 3." It's really cool. So yeah, so the Sheps is on. So then I do a bunch of takes. So I'll do, I don't know, 10, a dozen, 20 takes. I try not to do too many, but I do a bunch of takes, and I keep listening to them to see how it's, different parts. I might change it up a little bit, sing it a little different, and then I get the one I like, and then I try to sing that one again, sing it really well. So once I've had a good take there and I'm happy with it, then I move on, and then I finish whatever else I'm tracking, and then at the end, then I mix. So once I get to mix phase, then I go into my buffer and I set it at the highest rate. There's different ways you can do that in different DAWs, but you want to have the buffer, like I have it set to 128, I think, when I'm tracking. And then when I go to mix, I have it at like 2000, because we don't care about the latency part then. You want to have it up there because it's less taxing on your CPU, because one plugin I use in particular from Acustica Audio is very taxing on the CPU. They make amazing plugins. They're fantastic. So I have the Sheps, right? So we talked about that. Next, I used on this track, I used this, it's from Soundtoys. This is their effects rack. So they have a bunch of different effects. And so on this one, I used this radiator to give it some like more tube amp kind of presence to it. There's this Filter Freak, and then the Echo Boy set up with an Ecoplex. So it's got some cool delay happening with that. I love the Soundtoys stuff. It's pretty awesome. So I had that on there, and then my favorite, then I used this one from Acustica Audio. This is the Cream. This is on the old, they had this in Abbey Road. It's the TGI 12345, the consoles there. And it's like a couple different consoles that they have emulated in here, right? So this thing is awesome. I love it because it gives, for my vocals, it just gives it a lot of the top end that I can like push certain frequencies, and not just turn the level up, but just hit certain frequencies to make my voice punch through the mix good. So what I do on this, there's the input trim. I push that so there's really good signal going into the plug-in. And the presence, I'm boosting at 2.7. And then treble, we're boosting at 2.5. So right in those same frequencies, I'm boosting a little bit here and a little bit there. And then I'm using the compressor down in here. There's two different compressors they got set up between B and C here. And this thing sounds amazing. I highly recommend you checking out these plugins from Acustica. Again, it's going to be taxing on your computer, so you got to have a good CPU. But they do a fantastic job. So I just want to turn these off for you. We're going to leave the Sheps on, right? Because that's what I tracked with. And I'll let you listen to the vocal with just the Sheps. And then I'm going to turn on the other 3 plugins, okay? So take a listen. This is just starting with the Sheps. All right, so now I'm going to start turning them on. So let's do her again. And we'll start with Effects Rack. Then I'm going to add Sunset Sound, and I'll add the Cream last. Okay, so here we go. Waiting for you till after the show. Waiting for the lights to get real low. Oh, blue eyes spreading the news, and the old bartender knew this boy was about to lose. Yeah, so you can hear as soon as we added in the effects rack, So that just kind of gave us a little more push there with that radiator. And you could hear the delay come on. We had the reverb, and it just adds a little more space with the voice, right? And then you had the cream in where we're boosting in those couple frequencies there, when we're boosting at 2.7, 2.5. And then the magic, that's doing like there's a shelf in there with the magic. So that's adding a shelf. So that's really getting all the presence is coming from that cream plug-in. And it just makes it sound fantastic. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to turn the cream off and just play it a little more, and then I'll kick it in, and you'll hear how the cream just kind of, it adds the magic in there. So take a listen. Nobody told you that she is a loaded gun. Nobody told you that she is a loaded gun. No, off she goes. Yeah, so that's kind of how I do things. So I track with the Sheps. When it comes to mix time, then I'm going to use my effects rack maybe, just to get some delay in there. Use that little tube, the radiator there, to give it that kind of warmth. And then Sunset Sound Reverb's fantastic. And then the cream too, just to get where it's going to push out and get that little punch out there, so you can get that clarity. So that's how I'm doing it. I'd love to hear what you guys think of how I'm doing this here. If you've got any more questions, or if people have comments on what they do differently, I'd love to hear that too, because I love learning things as well. But I hope that helps out some of you folks to see what I'm doing there. All right, I'm going to get at it. I'm starting a new song here today. I actually had the drum parts done, and next is going to be working on tracking a bunch of guitars. So hope you guys get to play some guitar today. You take care now. Bye-bye. Turning in stone, all their foolish banter.